Hey guys, this is Josh, and actually, I am Josh, and this is the Skype for Business recap. Got my intro a little bit muddled there today. No big deal. It's not Friday again, but hey, Sunday is better than Monday like last week, right? So catch back up a day at a time or something like that. Whatever. Schedules are just obviously not a real thing anymore when it comes to this show, but I'm trying. So at any rate, we've got a number of good topics that I would love to dive into on this show. I've got them all lined up. So let's go ahead. Actually, before I do that, let me just go ahead and do a quick little recap on upcoming events. We had the April MSUC.chat meeting this last week. Great turnout. Great to hang out with a bunch of you guys out there. And this coming week is the integration partner slash Sonus webinar, Road to the Cloud, Cloud Communications, all about Cloud PBX is the name of the game there. So if you haven't registered for that, check out my last video. You can get the registration link there. And I'd love to have you guys join us for that. That is this coming week, Wednesday, May 3rd. So, yeah, hopefully we will see you guys on that webinar. As well, there are a number of user groups about to kick off for Q2 over the next week or two here, and a couple weeks after that as well, I'm sure. So, if you live anywhere near a major metropolitan area in the U.S., check out skypeug.com to see if there is a user group coming up in your area. If there is, register, put it on your calendar. Great chance to meet up with people in your local community, get a free meal, learn some cool new things about Skype for Business, and maybe even walk out with a really cool sponsor giveaway. Win, 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 all the way across the board. All right, let's jump over to the Infinity screen here. We're going to bring up the browser. First topic up today, Mr. Ken Lasko, Office Servers and Services MVP. Ken is one of the very well-known enterprise voice guys in the Skype for Business community. He is the creator of the formerly known Link Optimizer, now SkypeOptimizer.com. Very cool web-based tool for pretty much automating your enterprise voice configuration, your dial plans, your normalization rules, routes, the whole nine yards, based on feedback that you give. And so this blog post touches on two things. One, the brand new tenant dial plans that we talked about last week, and two, how Skype Optimizer can help you with those dial plans. Now, this is pretty big, okay? Now, before I talk about why, let's talk a little bit about this post here. He is going through the post, talking about tenant dial plans, how they're different from dial plans on your on-prem. Talks a little bit about what it likes when you look for these dial plans in your tenant. Talks about a couple other things in there. Highlights why he is the man and he should be the one writing the code for this thing. He is the man though. You got to give him that when it comes to enterprise voice. So as we go further down though, he talks about how Skype Optimizer can help with some of the problems that can be encountered with the very simplistic rule set that is given with the default tenant dial plan normalization rules. So right here he says, thankfully this means the Skype Optimizer is still relevant. Please go back to the link and read the rest of his post. But it is you can still use it to create dial plans and normalization rules that will make the user dialing experience better, including support for over dialing, local number dialing patterns, extensions, which is one of the big ticket items that everybody has been waiting for this feature for, removing national prefixes from internationally dialed numbers, and apparently his claim here is that it also can slice, dice, and make julienne fries for you. So that's pretty impressive for a web tool. Props, Ken. If we move a little bit further down here, he tells us just select the desired options for your country and then press the generate rules button. We get a handy little screenshot here about what this looks like. It's going to ask you for your credentials for your Skype Online tenant, and will then ask if you want to create a tenant global or tenant user dial plan. It then applies the normalization rules to your tenant, and that is it. So for all of you that were a little bit freaked out about tenant dial plans not having a GUI yet, you could only do them through PowerShell. Um, Good news. If you take your happy selves over to skypeoptimizer.com, you will be happier selves when you realize I can do it all via a GUI. Thank you to Ken Lasco. So this is a very cool. Not only do we have tenant dial plans ready to go, we now have a GUI way to accomplish them with a tool that has existed for quite some time and built itself quite a reputation for helping admins across the globe and setting up enterprise voice. Again, Ken, amazing job on the tool, both previously and for this latest development. Thanks for sharing your thoughts in this blog post as usual. And for those of you that find this helpful, please be sure to let Ken know what you think and leave feedback for him. Okay, next up, the presence, using the same presence as Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams. This was a suggestion on the Microsoft Teams user voice site, which is a site for giving feedback and making suggestions to the Microsoft Teams product group. We've talked about this site quite a bit in the last few episodes here. One of the most voted items on there was people wanted the presence that you have in Microsoft Teams to be the same as it is in Skype for Business. There was some back and forth on this. They said they were looking into it. They wanted some feedback about what was most important to you, having it be the exact same presence or just synced up with it. A lot of feedback was given, and the latest update on here from our ever helpful admin Sufatra is thanks to everyone who brought this feature to the forefront and shared feedback on their use case scenario. Their status has been changed to working on it, not just looking into it or need more feedback. This is now something they are working on doing. Awesome. This is the power of feedback. This is why feedback is important. It will be so great to have the status be synced up between those two clients. I can't wait for this. Thank you, product team, for listening and for working on this. Really looking forward to seeing that come to fruition. Next up, a little bit of Modern Auth to talk about today. This one has to do with, as the title shows you here, modern authentication for the Skype for Business Online Windows PowerShell module. What exactly are they talking about here? That's kind of a mouthful. I'm not quite sure what they mean. Is this Modern Auth across the board here? Let's read the title very carefully. Modern Auth for the Skype for Business Online Windows PowerShell module. If we go down here, they give us the background. In the past, you couldn't leverage Modern Auth if you wanted to connect as an admin via remote PowerShell to manage Skype for Business Online. What this meant is that you had to use an administrator account that did not enforce Modern Auth. There's the rub. That's what we're talking about here. So don't overread into this. Read it very carefully. Next paragraph down. For admins to benefit from the additional security that Modern Auth provides, they have updated the online Windows PowerShell module. They note that you must have version 7.0.1045.0 or higher. They give us the link at the end of this article. In addition, to use multi-factor auth, you can no longer provide a PS credential object when setting up a new CS Online session. They give you some examples of what this is going to look like. All right, it's going to prompt you. The credentials can be used for up to 8 hours, then you must re-auth after 8 hours. Deployment considerations, and these are the important things to pay attention to here. Session expiration, like we just said, session expires after 8 hours. When the sessions expire, a pop-up will ask you for your credentials. But this pop-up will not accept any credential you can provide as it is expecting an OAuth token. A way how to remove the existing session is here. So remove the session and then create a new one. Okay, a little bit of an annoying workaround, but that's how you have to do it. Installation on an unpatched Windows Server 2012 R2. Installation of this PowerShell module might fail if you are running it on an unpatched Windows Server 2012 R2. The reason is that it is using an incompatible version of the VC Redist, and we know that is obviously part of the module here. So, of course, they're saying we recommend you keep your systems fully patched. Of course. Last piece here: managing Cloud Connector Edition (CCE). A tenant global admin account is required for CCE to add or remove appliances, enable or disable automatic updates, and enable or disable automatic binary updates. While this account can be enabled for Modern Auth, it must not be enabled for multi-factor auth. Otherwise, managing Cloud Connector Edition will fail. That's a big caveat for all of you CCE adopters out there. So pay attention there. They give you a few items down here for going to learn a little bit more. A link to a wiki. Download the latest PowerShell module. Enable your tenant. And then, of course, questions or comments, a link over to the soft community. So good article. Thanks for writing this up for us, guys. And keep that in mind as you are exploring Modern Auth more and more. A little bit more on this topic, multi-factor authentication. This is a blog post, the UC Guys blog post, or blog. Our author, Dino Caputo, who is another Office Servers and Services MVP. The multi-factor authentication, short-named MFA, iOS, and the Skype for Business mobile client. Okay, so the latest version of the Skype for Business mobile client on iOS, there's the version number there, seems to have resolved the long-standing issue of the use of multi-factor auth with Exchange Online. And then he tells us what he's talking about here. If you're not familiar with what the issue was, it is where that Skype for Business app would connect to the user's mailbox and display Skype meetings. That's where the issue was, trying to connect to the box and find meetings. You would also get the error messages saying that the client could not connect to the server. But before this newer client, the only way for the Skype for Business mobile app on iOS to work properly was with app passwords. Kind of a hassle for users, a bit kludgy, not the way things needed to be done. So as of the update, as he says, it appears that all is working properly now. So if you were leery of MFA because of the iOS client, the newest client may just help you out there. One last tip he gives us: if you find that users are in this scenario and updating the client doesn't fix their problem, he says just uninstall the client from the phone, reinstall it from the App Store, and that should resolve it for you. There appears to be something that gets cached somewhere in there. So like he says there, he is seeing this about 40% of the time, the caching issue. So there it is. Thank you, Dino. Great write-up and very good to know. Last but not least here, an announcement on the Skype for Business Online CQD, Call Quality Dashboard, from April 26th, this last week. Just a little bit updates on the dashboard here. A few bug fixes and a couple of changes to address some feedback items from users. Again, they are listening to feedback and they are addressing some of the things brought to them. First up, IP address dimensions are now shown in their standard format for both IPv4 and IPv6. They don't have the dashes any longer. Call setup failure reason dimension has been remapped to easier understand and more admin actionable classifications. They give us a link for that. And then the following dimensions have been removed. It gives us 5 different dimensions that were removed there. Now, the important part, the notes, the things that you should always read carefully. If you have built custom detailed reports using any of the filters above an IP address dimension, such as second subnet or call setup failure reason, you may need to manually update those filters. Second, there may be very slight changes in stream counts with this new, more accurate data model. And then third, the Wi-Fi dimensions that have been removed have alternate dimensions available. So another link there to check out exactly what they're talking. If you have already started to dive into CQD online and started checking that out and playing with it and getting custom filters, this is probably a good post for you to read up on a bit and make sure everything is good to go with your reports and you know what's new there. Hopefully this helps some of you guys out. That is all that I have. I'm going to go back over to my Infinity screen and then back over to me. That's all for this week. Just a handful of topics. I hope that you have found them helpful at the very least. I hope humorous at times as well, maybe. And I hope that if you guys do find this information helpful and informative, that you will reshare, retweet, whatever social media tool you're using to spread tech news, I would really appreciate it if you let people know that you found this humorous, helpful, insightful, whatever adjective you want to put on there. So thank you guys for joining me once again. I look forward to seeing you guys here next week. Have a very productive and good upcoming week. Adios.